Good day to everybody. So great to be together again. Today we're going to speak about the exciting events, hopefully that will evolve with Stratasys. Let me kind of present you with a step before I speak about Stratasys. Who am I speaking to when I speak about Stratasys? Think about the following. Who are my target markets? First of all, I speak to the shareholders of Stratasys because I want to convince them that the price per share that we are offering is very attractive to them. They'll never see, I believe, this price or close to that in any time soon. And if you look back, they haven't seen this for a long time. So this is one target market. The second target market are the shareholders of Nano. The shareholders of Nano want to know, why am I paying so much? Is it worth it? So by definition, you see already there's conflict of interest. So the shareholders of Stratasys, I want to convince them it's a great payment. The shareholders of Nano, I have to convince them that it's a great payment on the low side because they're not paying too much. Then, of course, the most important is the constituency of the employees of Stratasys and employees of Nano, because we're going to merge the two companies. So they have to be convinced that, first of all, it makes sense. Secondly, it's a merger for growth, which means 1 plus 1 equals more than 2. And in general, their place of work is not at risk. And it's unrelated to how much we're paying and how much we're not paying. So it's three constituencies that at least two of them is a conflict. The conflict is between the shareholders of Nano, which want to pay as low as possible, and the shareholders of Stratasys, they want to be paid as high as possible. And I'm in the middle. I have to make a decision. I have to do my best for the shareholders of Nano, which means pay as low as possible. But I have to do good for the shareholders of Stratasys, otherwise they would not say yes. In the middle somewhere, there's the board of Stratasys. That is a constituency by itself, and that's a problem, because theoretically the board of Stratasys has to be identical with the shareholders. They have to make sure they are getting the highest price possible, and I have to convince them it's the highest price possible. But there's an issue. Our board, for instance, is not being paid in cash at all. Our board are only compensated by the shares of Nano, if they go up or they go down. The board of Stratasys are paying themselves cash on an ongoing basis, daily, monthly, yearly, which means it's a separate constituency, because the shareholders of Stratasys will only get the payment per the share, but the board, if they do the deal, they will lose their annual revenue on a personal basis. And of course, the CEO, Yoav, is not part of the board, and so he hasn't these issues. Hopefully, Yoav will join us, and we're already discussing it with him. As you know, I met him. So we have an interesting agency problem here with this board. But let's go back to the main target markets. First of all, the shareholder of Stratasys, which I have to convince, and I have to convince their board before. If I don't convince the board, because the issue I mentioned to you before, I go directly to the shareholders of Stratasys and I tell them, disregard your board. I'm going to pay you above $19 a share. It's a very attractive price. And if you look at your share, how it traded over the last 6-7 months, not to speak about the fact that the market is going down. Silicon Valley Bank crashed. Another bank I think it's called Singular or whatever bank in the States crashed. Credit Suisse crashed. The market is going south. Your share is going south, and not necessarily because of the performance of the company. Yoav is doing a good job, but it's going south. So you can hold and wait and wait and wait, or you can take what I'm offering you now. And I think that's attractive. Your board and what they will recommend to you, think about the fact that if they recommend for you not to take our offer, maybe they have other alternative motive, because they are in a different position than you. They're not really shareholders, the board. You are shareholders. The board are working for money. and their job will stop the minute we'll finish this transaction. I can promise you that. So there's a little bit of a dichotomy here, and we have to think about it. It's really interesting, and it's natural. It's natural for a board that pays himself money. Our board, for instance, if we ever get offered to buy Nano Dimension for $10 a share, myself, the board, all the employees, they're all compensated on the same, pretty much on the same tool like you shareholders are holding, share price. So what about the shareholders of Nano? I am hearing from the shareholders of Nano two voices. From one side, the shareholders are saying to me, we waited for you to do large deals. Why didn't you do large deals in the past? You did only small deals. And my answer was because the prices were too high. I'm not talking, of course, what shareholders like Murchinson and Ransom are saying. Whatever they say is in order to dismantle the company, take $4 a share. I'm talking about shareholders like you, the retailers, very few institutions as well. And those shareholders, I'm now having this communication with you. So people are writing to me and I'm writing back. And some people are telling me, great, go for it. Stratasys, great transaction, great acquisition. From the other side, some people say, Yoav, why are you spending all this money that you so insistently held back and didn't spend it on one large transaction in a company that's not growing too fast or not growing at all? Means Stratasys for many years now, steady. And maybe it's the wrong thing to do to spend so much money. The answer is clear from our point of view. We did our due diligence for 7 months now. Stratasys is a great acquisition for this price for Nano. It is also a company that traded at a low price comparing to other much smaller companies. And the reason is because it didn't grow. It was flat for the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And it's large enough, and it has distribution channels and go-to-market that we need in Nano, which we have the growth engines, the technological growth engines that they don't have. So it's like, think about a boat, heavy boat, ship. Stratasys is going straight, very difficult to turn left or right. It's going forward, strong engine, but it's going forward and very, very slow. Don't accelerate. Comes Nano, us, and we are just a small turbo engine that we put on this boat with no weight almost, because the boat is big enough and carries enough what we need. And we just add the engine. Suddenly the same boat with the same weight that didn't go anywhere is now accelerating because we added the extra growth engine. That's the analogy, that's the metaphor. And we are Nano without that boat, just with the engine. We can have a small speedboat with a nice engine, and we will accelerate and we will grow. But until we get to the size of that boat, it'll take us time. So I'm trying to shorten this time, and I'm always evaluating, is the money invested worthwhile shortening the time? Because at the end of the day, the calculation is, will the combined company, with its profit that I will deliver, or we will deliver as management, I should say, not me alone, will cause the Nano share to be traded at a much, much higher price. And all our estimations, including our advisors, Lazar and Greenhill, are saying, yes, you can see how, and we have a plan how. I don't want to outline the plan the plan of how to do it. We have a very clear plan of what to do with Stratasys Nano merged together. I met with 4 board members of Stratasys for the last 4 years. 2 of them are not on the board anymore, and 2 or 3 of them are still on the board. I wouldn't tell you who I met with, and I wouldn't tell you what the board member told me, because you will be shocked as Stratasys shareholders of what I heard. And that's before Yoav's time, so nothing to do with Yoav. They're basically the same. The people basically said it's going nowhere. Then I met with 3, 4 executives of Stratasys, which are not executives there anymore. And the history of issues in management and lack of control and acquisitions that were done and were not efficientized by merging them properly, which is what we're very, very good at in Nano. So I did my due diligence. For the shareholders Nano, I can tell you, if we'll do this acquisition at prices that are reasonable, it'll be amazing, as much as adding value to all of us. Last but not least, of course, for the employees, combined company. I'm telling you guys, for the Nano employees, they know me. They know all of us. They trust us. They are with us. I'm updating them on what we're doing, so they don't worry. And we have employees, 540 employees in 6 countries. For the employees of Stratasys, I think they have above 2,000. I'm not sure as many countries, but I'm sure they do. This is a merger of growth. This is not a merger of let's cut expenses and bring more dollars to the bottom line by being steady and more profitable. No, this is a business plan of let's being profitable by growing because we have the growth engines and becoming more profitable. So the opportunity will be amazing for all employees. And for instance, in the United States, we have very small operation. So your operation will be the base and it'll be exciting. In Europe, we have a bigger operation, et cetera, et cetera. We will mold them together in a way that makes sense and makes an upside for everybody. Plus, in Nano, I don't know about Stratasys, in Nano, all the employees are shareholders. It's my insistence. All the employees are shareholders. So I don't know how it is in Stratasys, but if it's not, you're also becoming a shareholder. Shareholders. Last but not least, before we close, people may want to think, what will this very respectable gentleman from the lakeshore of Ontario, which spent a lot of the time swimming in the early days, I think, what would they say? Well, first of all, I don't care what they say. They can vote on anything when we have a shareholders meeting, but they can't say anything about when we do a regular transactions with cash that we got from the investors, so they have no say. Secondly, yeah, they keep bugging us, but you'll be interested to know, I think we published it a day ago, there's a very serious lawsuit in New York that was filed by us against them about issues that were described in the news release. I don't want to get into that. Go back to the news release. It's a very, very respectable law firm in court, Southern District of New York. That's the place where some famous people like presidents, ex-presidents are being sued as well. And the misters and missuses from the Ontario Lake will have to travel to Manhattan and deal with that. And if there'll be any questions in the future, I'll answer, of course. But that basically puts them also on the spot in so much as their attempt, because we're not going to let shareholders, which are, of course, I'm not sure they are to be blamed, yes, but maybe they'll be innocent. But the suspicions even are frightening. So that's about that. Any more questions that anybody will have, please, as you're doing until now, talk to me, write me. I'm happy to answer, and I look forward to the next step. Goodbye.